Hi Antje, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm good. Shall we have a look at our project?
Yes, we shall.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Center of Connected Industries today here in Aachen. First of all, welcome Wilke from Ericsson, myself, Antje Williams, and we would like to invite you to follow us to show you something very special on the technology side in the center here. And of course, Joe and myself haven't done too much. First of all, I would like to mention our host, Christian Maaßen, sitting right here, the director of Connected Industries. And what are we without a team? So I would like to thank our team that made this possible. Ericsson and Deutsche Telekom, this is Thomas, Farhan, and Uwe here in the center. So, yes, we have some special times here. For us, it was really important to still demonstrate today our technologies. Despite the crisis we are having in Germany, we believe it's very, very important to continue work for the industry. And Joe will explain you what we have done.
Thank you, Antje. I can try. So, despite all the challenges, the team could actually manage to build up a 5G network based on the so-called 5G Standalone Architecture. And the network consists of a couple of components. So here you see the radio and core network on a 5G SA technology. To my left-hand side, we have the antenna to broadcast the signals of the 5G SA network. And the antenna is reaching our model autonomous robot here. And that has a 5G standalone module with which the robot is connected to the network. And the robot is controlled by an application that sits on the edge of that network. And in order to validate the connectivity between that application and the model robot, I can activate an action with pushing this button. And you can see very nicely that there is an immediate response from that application. And this is basically an example of a use case that becomes very important in terms of both the technology but also the end-to-end value that it brings. And there are a couple of other use cases that are similar to this one that can be applied in multiple industry segments. And also, for example, important in these days to, for example, hospitals and similar operations where there is something that needs to be controlled remotely, which cannot be controlled manually by humans, as the environment might not be good for humans. And those applications and end-to-end use cases come with a large number of specific requirements and requirements on the capabilities of the network. And in the partnership of Ericsson and Deutsche Telekom, we are developing campus networks that are a response to those requirements. And maybe you, Antje, can tell us a bit more about the campus networks.
Tell you a little bit about our products. Today, you have heard it's about 5G. We have already developed together with our partner a product based on 4G. 4G means LTE technology on a campus, we call it L, and additionally a campus M network. We will come to the more details later on. But basically you always have a network. Then on top of it you have an edge component, and that edge component serves you to steer at the end your use case. This type is ready for sales. We have implemented it already in several cases, and basically it contains different aspects. I think what we add now is the 5G technology.
Maybe I can say a few words on the novelty of 5G. So what value does it add? And important there is that 5G as such was invented to serve a number of very diverse use cases. And the diversity of use cases has been mapped to the technology. And there is already one aspect on the enabler side that makes it very visible how the 5G technology responds to this diversity. So the 5G technology can, for example, work on different frequency bands, like low bands, mid bands, and high bands. And dependent on the use cases, you can already at that level choose what is best for your family of use cases. So do you require a high throughput, a low latency, or a very great reach? So this is all possible with 5G, as 5G has the ambition to address this great diversity of use cases. And very particular, also with this what we validate today, we have the so-called 5G SA technology, where SA stands for standalone technology, meaning there is no support required from other radio technologies. And on this technology, the industry maps basically their specific requirements in terms of latency and throughput, so that the use cases that we spoke about can actually materialize over time.
Yeah. Let me come to different requirements, because what we are offering, and we mentioned it already, is dual slicing. And dual slicing is exactly what you need to respond to different requirements. Dual slicing means that we split our network into a private part and into a public part. The private part, the campus owner can manage himself whatever needs he has. So he has a component that's a core network where the edge component is on top, and he can steer his use cases on site and connect everything. The public part, he can connect himself or his campus with the outside world, which is very important when you look at use cases where you have, for instance, maintenance that is done from somewhere else to your campus, so you need to have a public network. So one important thing for us is to offer both, that you can choose as the campus owner what want I to connect with which part of the network. The second thing is you can choose, and that was what Joe was already mentioning, different frequencies. You have the variety of frequency. Why is that so important? So frequencies is basically where we manage our networks. And you have frequencies that so-called low band, which means they spread very well, but you probably cannot have such big data transported. And you have the mid-band, that's what we're talking today, is 5G, yeah, around 3-point-something bands, where you have not such a good coverage, but you have a very, very good throughput. And additionally, you have the really high bands on 26 gigahertz, where the coverage is extremely small, but the throughput extremely high. We come back to the mid-bands, very important. In Germany, there was a decision taking to give out industry bands on 3.7. These industry bands is a component that we would introduce in our network itself, and we would add our own frequencies on top. So you as a customer can choose between the different needs you have, and we would put the right frequencies. And that is about what we can offer to the industry.
Yes, and I would propose that we have a look at a wider range of use cases in our production environment. Want to join me?
Yes.
So here we see the model of the production facility of Center Connected Industries, which is equipped with a 5G network. And here you see actually the industry use cases that are grouped in a few categories here. And for example, to my left here, you see the future assembly. That is one of the most recent additions to the factory that you see in front of you. And if you look into this production area, you can see that there is also a capability of 5G that becomes very important. And this is what we call the device density, meaning how many devices can you actually put on a square meter into such a production hall. And this is so important as the production needs full transparency into the data of the goods that are produced, and also methods like digital twins are being used to also take very fast and proactive decisions onto the production process, and by that increase the efficiency to a large degree. Also, you can imagine that the devices that are more mobile, like our automatically guided vehicles that we will see in a few minutes, that they need a very reliable, secure, network so that the safety for the workers and for other machines can be guaranteed. Also, the network that we have here comes with a high degree of security and also other capabilities so that robots that are connected today with cables can basically be connected wirelessly if you cut the cable. So shall we go down to the shop floor and have a zoom in on a few use cases?
Cool. Yeah.
Let's go.
Now we're down in the assembly line, and I would like to talk a little bit about our real customers that we have so far in campus networks. And first one to be mentioned, still Osram. Osram is producing light bulbs. And as you know, Osram is a perfect example for the changes of the industry. A light bulb production was normally 100 years the same light bulb. At the moment, they make small light LED lights, for instance, for car environment. And the production time is reduced to maybe 1.5, 2 years. So you have to be much more flexible. So Osram was actually one of the first one that asked for putting AGVs, those moving robots, into their site in order to have robots working instead of human beings on certain spots. And therefore, Osram is a perfect example. So we have our dual slice networks put into Osram's production, and there we show it. Another customer in Hungary, Borgwana, is a supplier for the car manufacturing industry. Same thing, basically. They want to have their production more flexible, with more machines connected to each other. Therefore, they needed a web network. The latest one we both did together was BMW in Leipzig. Also there, what you can see, the flexibility of the production and the digitization is a main cornerstone for our customer to go forward with our networks. And now we're here in Aachen, and actually this is the perfect example for the big number of customers, people of the ecosystems. They want to try out things based on 5G or 4G connectivity. And that's where we're here for, because we actually experience for the first time that our industry has to work together with other industries where we probably don't know everything. And that's why we're working a lot with different partners.
And in this, what we call the ecosystem, where we have a large number of players that are represented, for example, on our production floor here, there are companies that are bringing different values. So some are focused on the devices, others are focused more on the control software, and then we basically bring the ecosystem together to also create an end-to-end system so that values are created that are contributing to digitalization, increased efficiency. As an example, you, Antje, mentioned a few companies that are going with automatically guided vehicles that you also see in this production floor here. And this use case alone has a number of players. So for example, the manufacturers of the sensors, the manufacturers of the video cameras, those that have actually the connectivity layer towards the 5G network, the AGV itself. So I could list like 20 players that make up one of those use cases. And that is what we call the ecosystem play, that we go together and build projects where all can contribute with their assets.
Yes. And we have contracted a couple of them so far. I don't know if EK Automation tells you something. They're producing AGVs, or Enreal, they're producing glasses. If you are now interested to know more about campus networks, to know what we can do for you, or how you want to digitize your environment, please contact with us, contact with me, and we will, for the time being, do a WebEx and do individualized analysis what you need for your components and what we can do for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.